Week 9 of the 2025-26 NBA season is over, which means it's time to run it back. This is Run It Back, NBA Week in Review. I'm Jose Salviati, editor at thebeachbasket.net, and this is the show where we recap the week that was in the NBA and then highlight the marquee matchup for the week to come. We start with the only objective overall top 10 NBA power rankings anywhere. You can read more about how we get to these power rankings and see the entire list at thebeachbasket.net. Let's take a look at the top 10 at the conclusion of week number 9. The Toronto Raptors start us off at number 10. After a 2-1 week, not a bad week at all. It was enough to propel them from number 12 into the top 10 at number 10. The Minnesota Timberwolves also had a 2-1 week in week number 9, and it also was enough to move them up 2 spots from number 11 to number 9. Welcome to the top 10, Minnesota Timberwolves. The Boston Celtics joined the 2-1 party. They also went 2-1 in week number 9, and that also moved them up, although not 2 spots. They moved from number 9 to number 8. Now, interestingly, the Los Angeles Lakers were 2-1 in week number 9, just like everybody else, but it didn't do enough to move them anywhere. They were number 7 last week. They're number 7 again this week. As you get higher in the ratings, it's harder to move up. Makes sense. The New York Knicks, the NBA Cup champion New York Knicks, were 1-1. We don't count that NBA Cup championship, but their 1-1 week was enough to keep them at number 6. Denver Nuggets were 2-1 as well, just like the Lakers, just like Boston, Minnesota, and Timberwolves, and the Toronto Raptors. But just like the Lakers, the 2-1 week for the Nuggets was not enough to move them up. They stay at number 5 in week number 9. Now, the Houston Rockets had a bumpy week. They were 1-2 in week number 9, and it did cost them. They dropped 1 spot from number 3 to number 4. The runner-up for the NBA Cup, San Antonio Spurs, had a 2-0 week. Again, we do count because the NBA doesn't count the NBA Cup loss. So the Spurs were perfect 2-0, and that moved them up 1 spot. They leapfrog over the Houston Rockets, and they were to number 3 in week number 9. The best team in the East, at least statistically, at least when it comes to wins and losses, are the Detroit Pistons. They were 2-1 in week number 9, and that was enough to keep them at number 2. And the best team in the NBA overall. No, they didn't win the NBA Cup, but they're still pretty darn good. The Oklahoma City Thunder, 1-1 in week number 9, but they've got such a lead on everyone else that they weren't impacted by a 1-1 week. They are still the number 1 team overall at week number 9. That is the objective top 10 list for week number 9. If you want to see where all 30 teams land this week, please visit thebeachbasket.net. Now, let's shift our focus to the players. These are the best to do it by average in week number 9 of the 2025-26 NBA season. These are the best by average in shooting, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals, points, and game score. We start with the best overall scorer. In week number 9, he plays in Philadelphia. Tyrese Maxey played 2 games this week and averaged 34 points to lead the NBA. The top sniper, the top 3-point maker was Steph Curry. He played 3 games and averaged 6 made 3-point shots, but Derek White matched him. He also played 3 games and had 3-point shots made. The best field goal maker was Tyrese Maxey, who happened to be the best scorer. Again, in his 2 games played, he averaged 13 field goals made. Now, the best rebounder, a new name, we haven't called him out so far this season, but he's a really good player, and he might be available out in Utah. That's Lauri Markkanen. He played 1 game, pulled down 16 rebounds. The best offensive rebounder plays for the Boston Celtics, but hasn't played a lot. He got a little bit of time this week. He only played in 1 game, but he made the most out of it, pulled down 9 offensive rebounds to lead everyone. Lauri Markkanen pulled down 14 defensive rebounds in his 1 game played to lead everybody. Now, when it comes to assists, we had 3 players who averaged 10, Isaiah Collier, Trae Young, and Kevin Porter Jr., but we're going to give the shout-out to Isaiah Collier. The Utah Jazz player played 3 games, where Trae only played 1 and KPJ only played 2. So the 3 games trumps the others. He averaged 10 assists to lead everybody. Good to see a different name pop up here, and good for Isaiah Collier. Speaking of different names, Dylan Cardwell. He plays for the Sacramento Kings, and he sent back 4 shots over his 2 games played. Again, that's 4 shots on average. So he had himself a really good week. Congrats to Dylan Cardwell. Lauri Markkanen, again, in his 1 game played, had 4 steals to lead everyone, and Lauri Markkanen was the top game scorer. Again, only 1 game played, but he made the most of it. He had the top game score across the NBA in week number 9 at 32.1. Now let's look ahead to week number 10. The best matchup is in the Western Conference between 2 young, really good teams. In week number 10, the Oklahoma City Thunder traveled to San Antonio to take on the NBA Cup runner-up Spurs. The Spurs, as you might remember, got there by beating the Thunder in the Western semis. That was a little bit unexpected. Everybody expected the Thunder to take them down and meet whoever the winner was. Of course, we know it now, it was the Knicks, but it wasn't the Thunder. It was the Spurs that got there. So will it be revenge for the Thunder, or will the Spurs let the Thunder and the rest of the NBA know that they are for real? I think it's going to be a really fun game to watch. Now, we end with a segment we call Full Court Press. I ask AI to search the internet for viral trending NBA news. What are people saying out there? What are the press writing about as we head into week number 10? And this is what it came up with. I'm going to save you the details because normally I rattle off all of the things it came up with, but the first one it came up with is the one that we're going to talk about today, and that's Cooper Flagg's historic rookie campaign. Now, I want to leave aside for a minute the way he got to Dallas. We'll talk about it, but we're going to leave that aside for now. It's really time to appreciate the greatness of Cooper Flagg. Making that greatness all the more amazing is the fact that he is 18 years old. He's 18 years old. That's incredible. What were you doing when you were 18? I know I wasn't scoring 42 points for an NBA game. My high school high water mark was 1 point. I was 17 at the time, so it's not too bad. Actually, it's pretty bad. But Flagg is showing that he will be a force to be reckoned with in the NBA. And remember, this is probably the worst he will be. In other words, he's only going to get better from here. I know this doesn't help smooth over the pain of the ridiculous Luka trade for Dallas Mavericks fans, but it has to help a little bit. In 10 years' time, it should really matter. Look where Flagg ranks all time for 18-year-olds. So we're just talking about players who played in the NBA at 18. Where does Cooper Flagg rank? He's 3rd in points behind only LeBron and Kobe. 4th in rebounding behind Bill Willoughby, Tracy McGrady, and LeBron. 2nd in assists behind only LeBron. 5th in steals behind Willoughby, McGrady, LeBron, and Kobe. And get this, he's the only 18-year-old in the entire history of the NBA to have a 40-point game. The kid's special, and he's showing that he's going to be really good. And keep in mind, of course, that we aren't even at the halfway mark of the season. Today, the day we record this, happens to be his birthday. So shout out and happy birthday to Cooper Flagg. So he's now 19. So all those achievements we just mentioned are now etched in stone. But overall, not too bad, right? This kid's going to be really good. He made his mark as an 18-year-old. He's going to get better as a 19-year-old. And the Dallas Mavericks have got themselves a really good player. Now, I get this won't likely mean much for the Mavericks this season. The hope in Dallas was that Anthony Davis would be healthy, that Klay Thompson would find the fountain of youth, and that Kyrie Irving would return at some point in the season. Now, Kyrie looks to be on track to come back soon, but the AD and Klay expectations, they don't look all that promising. But Maverick fans, please take note. You have a young superstar on your hands. It would have been nice for sure to see Luka hand the baton to Flagg like Dirk did for Luka. That's all in the past now. I know it still stings, but take a good look at the future and know that things are going to be okay. That's it. Week number 9 of the 2025-26 NBA season is in the books. Join us again next week after week number 10 when we once again run it back.